On the 4th of March, 2025, President Donald Trump spoke to the members of Congress. This was his first important speech to Congress in his second term as president. The speech lasted for 100 minutes and presented his main goals and ideas for the next years. President Trump's speech covered several important areas. He spoke about the economy and his plans to make it better. He talked about changes to immigration rules and how to control the borders. He also discussed social issues and changes he wanted to make in society and culture. The reaction to the speech was very divided. Supporters of President Trump were very enthusiastic. They cheered and applauded during the speech. Opponents were much quieter. They often did not react to what the president said. This showed a clear division in the country regarding the president's proposals. President Trump presented his plans as big and important changes for America. He stated that these changes would lead to a golden age of America. He mentioned changes to taxes, rules for businesses, and government departments. He also talked about border security, crime, and changes in schools. These are significant proposals that could change many aspects of life in the United States. This book will explore these proposed policies in detail. Each chapter will look at a different area of President Trump's speech. We will examine the plans for the economy, immigration, law and order, social changes, government, and foreign policy. The aim is to understand these proposals and consider their potential impact, without taking a specific position for or against them. We will present the information in a neutral way to help readers understand the different aspects of the speech and the proposed policies. 2. Changes to the economy. The speech focused significantly on the economy and proposed several changes. It was stated that the previous government had left behind an economic catastrophe with high inflation. To address this, the administration outlined a number of policies aimed at improving the financial situation of the country and its citizens. One key area was energy. The speech announced a national energy emergency and a commitment to increase energy production. This included plans to expand oil and gas drilling, support a large natural gas pipeline in Alaska, and increase the mining of important minerals. The aim was to lower energy costs, which was seen as vital to reducing inflation. Another important proposal was the creation of a new government department called the Department of Government Efficiency, or DOGE. This department, led by Elon Musk, was tasked with finding and eliminating waste in government spending. Examples of spending considered wasteful were mentioned, and it was claimed that significant amounts of money had already been identified and recovered. The goal was to reduce government debt and use taxpayer money more effectively. The speech also introduced the Gold Card program. This initiative proposed offering a path to U.S. citizenship for wealthy individuals from other countries who could create jobs in America. For an investment of $5 million, these individuals could gain citizenship and were expected to pay taxes in the U.S., contributing to the economy and helping to reduce national debt. Taxation was another major area of focus. The administration proposed tax cuts for everyone, including making income tax cuts permanent. Specific tax reductions were mentioned, such as no tax on tips, overtime pay, or Social Security benefits for older people. There was also a suggestion to make interest payments on car loans tax deductible, but only for cars made in America. These tax cuts were presented as a way to give people more money and stimulate economic activity. Tariffs, or taxes on imports, were also discussed as a tool to improve the economy. The speech argued that other countries charged higher tariffs on American goods than the U.S. charged them. To address this, reciprocal tariffs were proposed. meaning the U.S. would charge the same tariffs as other countries charged on American products. Tariffs were also announced on foreign aluminum, copper, lumber, and steel. These policies were intended to encourage companies to produce goods in America, protect American industries like steel and auto manufacturing, and create jobs. The speech emphasized job creation as a central goal of these economic policies. It was claimed that these policies had already led to significant new investment in the U.S., and that companies were starting to build factories and create jobs in the country. The overall message was that these economic changes would lead to a stronger economy, more jobs, and a better financial future for Americans. 3. Border security and immigration. Border security and immigration were important topics in the speech. The president spoke about the situation at the southern border of the country. He said that when he started his job, he declared a national emergency at the border. He sent the military and border patrol to stop people from crossing into the country illegally. According to the president, this action led to a big decrease in illegal border crossings. He stated that the number of illegal crossings was the lowest ever recorded in the previous month. He contrasted this with the previous government, saying that there were many illegal crossings each month under the previous president. He claimed that the previous government released people who crossed illegally into the country, including criminals and gang members. The president mentioned the Laken Riley Act. He said that the first law he signed as president was this act. He explained that this law makes sure that dangerous immigrants who are criminals are kept in detention if they are a risk to public safety. In his speech, the president also talked about gangs and cartels. He said that some gangs and cartels, like Tren de Aragua, Mississippi -13, and Mexican drug cartels, have been officially named as foreign terrorist organizations. He said that these groups are now in the same category as ISIS. He claimed that the previous government allowed many of these terrorists into the country. He stated that his administration will find and remove these terrorists from the country or put them in jail. The president also spoke about funding for border security. He said he has asked Congress to provide money to deal with threats to the country and to carry out a large deportation operation. He said this operation would be bigger than one done by a previous president. He urged Congress to send him the money quickly so he could sign it into law. The president mentioned that in the last 4 years, 21 million people had entered the United States. He blamed the previous government's open border policies for this. He stated that his administration is working to remove these people from the country. Overall, the president's message on border security and immigration focused on increased enforcement, reducing illegal immigration, and removing dangerous individuals from the country. He presented his policies as a solution to what he described as a crisis at the border and criticized the previous administration's approach. 4. Law and order. The speech also talked about changes to the justice system. It was said that the system had been changed too much recently. The focus should be on being fair and equal for everyone. One important point was about people who commit crimes again and again. It was mentioned that some places are not strict enough with these repeat offenders. At the same time, it was suggested that law enforcement was unfairly used against political opponents. The government stated it is now working to make the justice system fair for everyone, based on the law. Support for police officers was another key area. The speech emphasized giving police officers more support and protection. It was mentioned that police officers deserve respect for their difficult and dangerous jobs. The aim is to make their work safer. A strong measure discussed was the death penalty for those who kill police officers. It was stated that an order has already been signed to make the death penalty mandatory for anyone who murders a police officer. There is also a plan to make this a permanent law. A new crime bill was mentioned, which would be tougher on repeat offenders and offer better protection for police officers. This is to help them do their jobs without fear. The speech also addressed crime in cities and towns. It was suggested that law and order need to be brought back to these areas. No specific measures for this were detailed in this part of the speech, but the general aim was clear. Finally, the Take It Down Act was mentioned. This law is about protecting people from harmful images online, specifically deepfakes. It was noted that the Senate had already passed this act, and there was hope it would soon become law to stop the publication of these images. This was presented as a way to protect children and others online. 5. Social and cultural changes. Social and cultural policies were also addressed in the speech. A significant policy change was the ban on diversity, equity, and inclusion (DEI) policies across the federal government, extending into the private sector and the military. The stated reason was a belief in hiring and promotion based on skill and competence, rather than race or gender. Merit was emphasized as the primary criterion for employment. In education, policies were introduced concerning gender and critical race theory. Critical race theory was described as poison and removed from public schools. An executive order declared that the official policy of the United States government recognizes only two genders, male and female. Furthering this, another executive order was mentioned to ban men from participating in women's sports. The rationale given was fairness and the protection of women's sports, citing examples of physical differences and potential harm. Schools that allow men and girls teams risk losing federal funding under this policy. Language policy was also addressed with an executive order making English the official language of the United States. A new initiative, the Make America Healthy Again Commission, was announced. This commission, chaired by the Secretary of Health and Human Services, is tasked with improving public health. The goals include removing toxins from the environment and poisons from the food supply, with a focus on children's health. The speech highlighted a concern about rising rates of childhood cancer and autism, suggesting environmental and dietary factors as potential areas of investigation. Policies concerning transgender issues in schools were outlined. An executive order was mentioned that aims to prevent the indoctrination of children with transgender ideology in public schools. Additionally, another order intends to cut off federal funding to institutions that perform sexual mutilation on youth. Congress was urged to pass legislation to permanently ban and criminalize sex changes for children, characterizing the idea of a child being trapped in the wrong body as a lie. The speech conveyed a message to children that they are perfect exactly the way God made you. 6. Changes to government. Significant changes were introduced to the way the government operates. One of the first actions was to stop hiring new people for federal jobs. This was called a freeze on federal hiring. At the same time, a freeze was put in place for new rules and regulations made by the government. Another change affected federal workers. An order was given for all federal workers to come back to their offices to work. This meant that people who had been working from home had to return to their usual workplaces. The message was clear. Federal workers needed to be present in person to do their jobs, or they would lose their jobs. These actions were part of a wider effort to drain the swamp. This phrase was used to describe the aim of removing people and processes seen as unnecessary or inefficient in the government. The idea was to make the government smaller and more effective by getting rid of what was considered to be bureaucracy. It was stated that any government worker who did not support these changes would be removed from their position. Some changes were also made to names of places. The Gulf of Mexico was renamed the Gulf of America. Additionally, Mount McKinley was renamed back to Mount McKinley in honor of a past president. A notable change concerning international affairs was the announcement about the Panama Canal. It was stated that the administration would be, quote, reclaiming the Panama Canal. The reason given was that the canal was originally built by Americans and for Americans. It was mentioned that there was a belief that previous agreements about the canal had been broken. Therefore, steps were being taken to regain control of the Panama Canal. These changes indicate a shift in how the government was being run, focusing on reducing the size of the bureaucracy, increasing control, and altering established policies. These actions were presented as necessary steps to make the government more efficient and to restore what was seen as American control and values. 7. Military and foreign policy. This chapter is about plans for the military and foreign policy. One important plan is to build a strong defense for America. The idea is to create a Golden Dome missile defense shield. This would be a very modern system to protect the country. It is designed to stop missiles from attacking America. The president mentioned that new technology makes this possible now, which was not the case before. This shield would help keep people in America safe from danger. Another important area is making the American military industry stronger. A key part of this is to rebuild the shipbuilding industry in America. This means making more ships in the USA. These ships would be for both business and for the military. To help with this, a new office will be created in the White House. This office will specifically work on shipbuilding. Also, special tax benefits will be offered to companies that build ships in America. This is to encourage companies to build ships in the USA and create more jobs for American workers. The speech also talked about the Panama Canal. The president mentioned reclaiming the Panama Canal. He said that an American company is buying ports near the canal. The Panama Canal was described as very important for America's interests. It is a key route for trade and travel. Regarding Greenland, the USA supports the people of Greenland to decide their own future. If Greenland chooses to become part of the United States, they would be welcomed. Greenland is seen as important for national security and for international security. Its location is strategically valuable. The president stated that the USA is strongly against radical Islamic terrorism. It was announced that a top terrorist responsible for the Abbey Gate bombing has been caught. This was done with help from Pakistan. This action was presented as important for the families of the American service members who were killed in that attack. Bringing terrorists to justice is a priority. In the Middle East, there are efforts to bring American hostages back from Gaza. The Abraham Accords, which were peace agreements from the previous presidential term, were mentioned. These agreements are seen as a starting point to build more peace in the Middle East region in the future. The goal is to create a more stable and peaceful Middle East. About the conflict in Ukraine, the aim is to stop the fighting. The president mentioned that he is working hard to end the war. He said that there have been discussions with Russia about peace. A letter from the president of Ukraine was mentioned, showing that Ukraine is ready for peace talks. The goal is to find a lasting peace agreement. The president emphasized the need to stop the deaths and suffering caused by the war in Ukraine. This chapter outlines the main plans for military and foreign policy from the speech. The focus is on making America stronger and safer, supporting American industries, and trying to achieve peace in different parts of the world. 8. Looking to the future. President Trump's speech to Congress presented a vision for the years ahead. He spoke about his plans for America and what he hopes to achieve. A central idea was the start of a golden age of America. This suggests a time of great success and happiness for the country. Economically, the president aimed for significant improvements. He talked about making America wealthy again through different policies. These include tax cuts and tariffs on goods from other countries. The goal is to create more jobs in America and lower the cost of living for families. He mentioned reducing the national debt and balancing the budget. These economic changes are intended to bring prosperity to many Americans. National security was another important focus. The president emphasized stronger borders and a powerful military. He spoke about stopping illegal immigration and removing criminals from the country. Plans for a missile defense shield and a stronger shipbuilding industry were also mentioned. These measures aim to protect America and its interests around the world. Socially, the speech highlighted conservative values. There was a focus on traditional views on gender and family. Policies were proposed to remove wokeness from schools and the military, and to promote what the president sees as American values. These social changes are intended to reshape American culture in a specific direction. The president believes these changes will lead to a better future for America. However, he also acknowledged that there may be challenges ahead. Turning these ideas into reality and achieving the golden age will require effort and may face obstacles. The impact of these policies on the country and its people remains to be seen.
Hey there! Just a second before you go. If you learned something new today, please give this video a like, write your thoughts in the comments, and subscribe to the channel. It only takes a second, and it really, really helps to create even better English videos for you. Your support means the world. Thank you.